What if somebody asked you, which I'm going to do right now, what made the sound of GCS unique? How would you describe the sound of that group?
Well, what made the sound unique was the fact that Larry was out in front. The bass was prominent. I don't think before Larry there had ever been a situation where the bass was prominent, so prominent. So everything was just driven by the bass. Everything was driven by the rhythm, the bass and the drums. So that's what made us different, was the fact that the bass was prevalent. The bass, not only was Larry playing the heck out of the bass, but he also had a deep bass voice. So that's what set us apart, I believe.
Do you think it's fair to say, I mean, he was an innovator, there's no question on the bass. We've still never seen anybody quite like him on bass. Do you think that's fair to say?
Yes.
Yeah.
I absolutely do. Before or since, there wasn't anybody before him or since him. Anybody that can come and their style of whatever they're doing, music, whatever it may be, painting, writing, whatever it may be, if you can come and what you're doing is so impactful that it changes the whole game, then you don't have anything but respect for that person. Because after Larry came out playing the bass, every bass player that I have ever met that knows that I'm in Grand Central Station or not, because I've been in situations where, I was just at a gig and they didn't know who I was and the bass player was up there, sound check, blah, blah, blah. They always played something by Larry. They felt like, bass players felt like, unless they could play something by Larry, I mean, really play it, then they weren't a bass player. So until they could master that thumping and plucking method, then they, that would worry some of them a lot. Until they finally got it, then they were happy. Now they could be called a bass player.
Well, there's that whole thing about, when you really feel the funk, you got to make that funk face, that you feel it. And I don't think anybody perpetuated that more than Larry when he would hit those notes and those grooves on the bass. I mean, man, it just grabs you.
It does, and it's embarrassing too, Scott, because I see pictures of myself, because you're right, when you're up there and you're playing that funk and you're in that zone, it shows all over your face. And I've seen pictures of myself that is like, I just couldn't believe my face could even do that. But I'm not embarrassed, because I was wrapped up in it, so that's the way it was.
Yeah, hey, you can't help it. You got to go with it.
It's not cute. Funk is not cute.
Resistance is futile.
Yes, it is.
So I got these other, this was the second one, Release Yourself, and then Ain't No Bout-a-Doubt. I used to have all these on vinyl, but like I told you, they're signed now, so they're framed. But
right.
And then Mirror, I don't have on CD here. But out of those three records, which were all great, what are a couple of highlights to you personally from those three records, and why?
We're talking a long time ago, but the first album, Grand Central Station, was my favorite. And one of the reasons it was special to me is because we worked Lenny Williams, you know who he is, of course.
Tower Power.
He was he's all over that album, and just being able to work with him, because Lenny, he's a character, so just being able to work with him, that was real special. And then Tower of Power, and then Freddie, he was on some stuff. Freddie wrote People, co-wrote People with Larry. So just all the people that helped us make that album, and the experience of being in the studio with all of them, that was the most fun, because that was the most innocent time. That was our first album. That was before all the corruption set in, all the greed set in. So we were just excited about finally putting out our first album. So that's my favorite. That's my favorite. Everything about it.
What role did spirituality and religion play? Because as a fan buying them, I noticed how it seemed like progressively the records were getting more biblical quotes on the liner notes, and then on Mirror there were a lot of overtly religious kind of songs. What was transpiring?
Well, what was transpiring was that Larry and I had broken up, so he was with another woman, Tina, and she was a Jehovah's Witness. And so Larry got into the Jehovah's Witness religion, and that's what happened. That's what happened. Everything, Graham Central Station morphed into religious funk.
So,
you know.
So for outside as a fan, I mean, it seemed like to me like that kind of set things astray as much as maybe the money squabble and all that.
Yeah, it did. At the point where it had taken that direction, that was the direction Larry wanted to go in, but that was not the direction that the rest of the group wanted to go in. So that was an issue. That was an issue. That was toward the end too, because we weren't trying to be a gospel funk band. You know what I'm saying? Larry was like deeply saturated into the Jehovah's Witness religion. So it was taking over everything, and including music.
So talk to me a little bit, Choc'Let, you mentioned Lenny and some of these guys. What was the Bay Area music and funk scene like? What was it like being part of that?
Oh, man. When I just think about it, it was magic. It was magic. Because at that time, you had Sly and the Family Stone, you had Tower of Power, you had Santana, you had Cold Blood. I gotta throw Cold Blood in there. I like Cold Blood. So in Leon's Creations, are you familiar with a group called Leon's Creation?
No.
Okay.
Wait, Leon's Creation?
Leon's Creation. Leon's Creation came out a little bit before Sly and the Family Stone did. And if you listen, you should check it out, because you cannot tell the difference. I thought it was Sly. I thought it was some of his earlier stuff, like way before they even did out, they came out with some of their first albums, but it was not. It was Leon's Creation. Larry was a fan of Leon's. He came from the Bay Area. So there were so many. Eugene Blacknell, go to this club over in Oakland called the Sportsman Club. And, Oakland was full of music. So you had all the local bands, right, that was trying to make it. So it was just, the air was just filled with funk. It was just filled with funk, and at that time we didn't really know the impact that funk would have. We were just playing music, something that everybody could groove to. It was that fusion of gospel and soul and R&B, and it came together and it was funk, and everybody was doing it and putting their own twist to it. Santana, he put his own twist on the funk, So everybody came to one another's houses and everybody jammed together 2 and 3 nights. People would be up, with the assistance of the drugs, of course. And the part I liked about that was that because I played an instrument, like, I would be able to jam with them. I wouldn't be one of the girlfriends sitting on the side, trying to stay awake and trying to be cute, while their men were doing their thing. I was like right in there with them. So it was wonderful. It was chosen. It was supposed to happen. It was a phenomenon. And I'm just blessed that I could be a part of it.
Wow, that sounds like it would have just been
amazing.
Amazing.
Everybody had a way of dressing. Everybody dressed the same. You had denim and turquoise and crystals all over the place and platforms and drugs. Everybody was trying to get the best drugs, and it was like a whole
free love.
Huh?
Free love, yeah.
Well, sort of. The hippies were doing that in San Francisco. But it was a culture. It was a culture. So it was much more than just the music. The music was part of that culture, but it was just a state of mind, a way of being. And it was like, I'm just blessed to be able to be a part of it. I'm so glad I could experience that time. and be a part of that.
Wow. So you mentioned earlier about being out and touring and, you know, Isley Brothers, Ohio Players, bands like that. When you were part of GCS, did you look at other bands competitively or just as colleagues, or, you know, was there sort of like a competitive attitude of the band to out jam the others?
Yes, there was, but it didn't come. It didn't come from us because we just did what we do. But if we were opening, like for instance, we went on tour with the Ohio Players. So it was a tour that lasted, I would say maybe about 3 months or so. And we killed them every night. We killed them every single night because we went on before then. So, but it wasn't something that we were intentionally doing or set out to do. We were just doing our set. And our set was high energy. You know, high energy. You know, we ended the set jumping up and down, releasing ourselves. At times plaster did actually fall from roofs and stuff, from ceilings and buildings and stuff. Did you know that?
I believe it's like a
It literally plaster would fall down. So the energy was such that, it was hard to follow us. It really was. It was hard to follow us. And so we made friends and we made enemies. Some musicians thought that we were intentionally doing that, but we weren't. We were just doing our set, and it was high energy, like Sly, high energy, same stuff. It was just an extension of what Sly was doing it, but Larry was out in front, and the bass was just pumping and just kicking you all in your back, and it's no way. So, but a lot of musicians that we were on tour with and stuff, they would come and they would not miss a set. They would not miss a set. They were like Billy. We went on tour with Billy Preston. He would not miss us. He would never miss us because he appreciated. Sometimes he tried to slide out there with us. So yeah, it went both ways. I must say most of the time it was hateration going on most of the time. But we weren't even paying attention to that because I'm telling you, by the time we walked off the stage, we were so tired until whatever else it was, whatever people were saying, thinking, or whatever, it did not even matter.
Wow. Did it ever happen, or did anyone ever try to set up a show that had both GCS and Sly on the bill?
We tried it. Sly didn't show up.
Yeah.
It was in DC. Sly didn't come. And also we did gigs with P-Funk too. We did gigs with P-Funk, and that dynamic was we would go first, because we were up and coming. So we would do our thing, and the people would be tired. They would be tired. So what was left of the energy, George would come in and, take them all, to space with him. And that was always interesting because there was always, I think there was always like this competition between, although it might be unspoken, but I always felt it, between the Sly and the Family Stone camp and the Bay Area camp and all that came with that, and then P-Funk and all that came with that. So it was real interesting because George is actually a fan of Sly's, always has been, still is.
Oh, they're friends.
So
yeah.
that it would be a little friction when we would play with them.
Yeah, well, I think as far as P-Funk goes, they were kind of us against the world. So whoever you might be, I think they wanted to compete with you. Was there any bands that you saw during that time, aside from your own and excluding Sly, but from like the mid-'70s that just blew you away, whether it was, Earth, Wind, and Fire, or I don't know who it might have been, but...
No. Because I was into that energy that Sly brought. I was into that energy, and like I said, Graham Central Station brought that same kind of energy, and there was nobody else doing that, and that's what I was into.
Well, I brought up at the beginning, that show in the at the House of Blues, and I mean, even that many years later, it was still there as far as I'm concerned. I brought my fiance at the time to that show, and she was a big Prince fan, but she thought it was about the best show she had ever seen. And you guys dressed all in white, and I mean, it was nonstop, 2 hours, high energy, and just so tight, everything on the money.
Exactly. Thank you so much. Exactly. And when we did that, we hadn't been together, like we didn't even have to rehearse that much, because when we got back together, it had been like some years, I want to say about 20 years at least, if not longer. And when we got together to rehearse to do that reunion tour, it didn't take any time for us to just automatically fall right back into, it was like the time hadn't even passed.
That's how I felt in the audience. It was amazing.
Yeah, it was like the time had not even passed.
So, Choc'Let, you talked about your solo album, what a thrill it was to hear that. What did you end up doing, musically in the 80s and, leading up to, I guess, that reunion, and then, leading up to the reunion we're talking about, what were you doing in the interim?
Well, okay. When I left Grand Central Station, I did pursue a solo career. I did get a record deal, and my record was released. And about 2 weeks after my record was released, the record company went bankrupt. So that was very disappointing. So then I just continued. On doing my thing. I sang background, did vocal support with many people. Shaka, BB King, many people. Went on the road, went in the studio. I worked with Wayne Henderson of the Jazz Crusaders for a long time. He was producing every artist that he would produce. I was in there with them. I was doing background vocal arrangements. I was co-writing songs with him to be placed on albums, like people like Ronnie Laws and others. We did Rebe Jackson. And then after a while of doing that, I was getting all the calls. I was the one to come to, and that was a lot of fun. I was doing pretty good. And then after that, I was in the studio. I had got called on this session that Dr. Dre was producing, and I was doing some background vocals for an artist he was producing, and Kenneth Copeland of Rolls Royce came in to the studio to visit with Dre because they had the same manager. So when Kenny came in, he heard me singing and he approached me. So that was the beginning of my stint with Rolls Royce. So I was with them for about 5 years. That was great. I loved that because it was totally different from me, because Rolls Royce was the female singer, was the one that did, she was out front. So this gave me a chance to stretch, what I'm saying? It gave me, because now everybody's paying attention to me. Kenny saying, I want to get next to you, or maybe another song. But I had to up my game, step up my game, because, I'm the lead singer. So that allowed me to take my, my game to another level. So that was good. I really enjoyed that. So, I stayed busy the whole time. I was on the road the whole time with a plethora of artists in the studio, recording with a plethora of people. And I stayed busy.
That's good to hear, because, I mean, your voice deserves to stay busy.
Thank you.
So I know you don't like to talk years. Hopefully it's not so bad with this one, but approximately what years were you doing the Rolls Royce thing?
Approximately from about 91. I was with Rolls Royce when I did the Grand Central Station reunion tour. So that came because I did that. That was the end of my little stint with Rolls Royce, because we had gigs, right? But I was not about to pass up a Grand Central Station reunion tour. So a lot of gigs, they had to call in a substitution for me. So they didn't like that much. So that was basically the end of that, but it was worth it.
Yeah. Did you do full sets with them? I mean, of course, people know their hits, Car Wash and Wishing on a Star and all that. But did you do any of the real like funk jams, like if it makes you feel like dancing and that kind of stuff?
Yep, we did that. We
Love
did.
those, love those tracks.
And yeah, we did do that. That was, I think that was about the funkiest one they did have, and I couldn't wait to do that one. We would come out on that one, so I would always look forward to that. But as you know, most of their hits were ballads, except for Car Wash.
Yeah. So, Choc'Let, what inspired you to write a book and then to write the other book, and talk to me about like that process?
Okay, well, I've always been that person that has journaled all through. I have all my little diaries from elementary school all the way through high school. Always did poetry, so just always did write songs. You know, songwriter. So the stories that were inside of me, I took so long to write these books, but my spirit wouldn't let me rest until I could finally get all these experiences and my stories out. So it was just something that I had always done, and I was determined to write a story, a book about Grand Central Station before and after. And as a matter of fact, I have my books right now. Okay, this is my first book right here. My first endeavor, A Choc'Let State of Mind. This is poetry and short stories. Okay, that was the first one.
Nice
And
cover portrait.
Deja Vu. This one is about, my career. Grand Central Station, highlighted, Deja Vu. And this is my last book. See, is it upside down? No, it's not.
That's right.
Secret Sacrifice. Secret Sacrifice is a more personal book about my experience in life with abuse. In every stage of my life, I have been abused in some sort of way. When I was a child, I was molested and abused by my stepfather for many years. And when I was with Larry, he liked to fight women. So I was involved with domestic abuse when I was with him. So in this book, Secret Sacrifice, I'm just like sharing, because really, like practically all my life, it's been some sort of abuse or another. So I'm just sharing with women because here I am, I'm still standing. I'm still in my right mind. So if I can do it, anybody can do it. So I'm just sharing with women. And it's really right now, in these days and times, is really important because it still goes on. So I'm just sharing, hoping to motivate and encourage and strengthen women who are going through the same thing and have been since the beginning of time.
Wow.
So I really it's a big personal part of my life that I put in that third book, Secret Sacrifice.
And how can people get copies?
They can go to patricechoc'letbanks.com, to my website. Everything is there.
Great.
Everything is right there. You can order everything right there. And you spoke about my buddy, Stozo. We are about to launch a whole funk situation because like we launched, like you said, Funkolution, because I am like so tired of every genre of music given accolades except for funk. Funk seems to get bypassed for some strange reason. And it's really strange because as far as I'm concerned, this is my personal opinion, were it not for funk music, there would be no music after it, no hip hop. Whatever came after funk would not exist, except for maybe disco, would not exist. So I don't understand why funk is not, as prevalent, as rock and roll, all the other kind of music that we've seen movies all about. We see documentaries about all the other different kinds of music, rock and roll, soul, blues. We see all that. But there has never been one movie about funk music? How come there's not a movie about Sly and the Family Stone? What is that about? I do not get it. So it is my mission to do all I can to keep funk music at the forefront and to keep funk music alive. So having said that, Stozo and I, we're launching some new stuff. We're doing some big things, trying to do our part to keep funk, in the forefront and to be appreciated and to go down in music history as important as it is.
Amen.
Amen.
God, I mean, I've struggled with that forever because I got.
What do you think about that? Why do you think that funk music in particular has somehow been put on the back burner? What is that about?
Well, first off, I always wondered it because the first album I ever bought when I was in middle school was Skin Tight, and then from then on, I was off deep in funk, and all throughout it, I always thought that the artists and the genre got short shrift from the record labels, from the public, from mainstream media. I mean, to me, I thought it seemed like a lot of it was racially based. I think that was definitely part of it. And then I think that disco came along, and there was such a massive backlash on disco, and they tried to sweep all funk into the disco basket. And since disco was bad, all black music and funk was bad. And so that kept it from getting on MTV. That kept those acts from like getting record deals. And it just kind of poisoned the whole well. And so I think that's part of it also. And then I just think that funk, there's so many aspects to funk, and funk can take so many different forms that in some ways it has maybe more of an indefinable quality than some other genres. I mean, I always say, funk when you feel it, not just hear it, when you feel it.
Oh yeah, exactly.
But if you don't have that gene, maybe you're blind to it. I don't know, but it has to get the credit it's due. And I'm just so glad that you're out there pushing for it.
Well, what's real interesting is that, funk is trying to make a resurgence today, but it's not quite, because here's what's happening. Because George has and P-Funk and that whole camp, because George never stopped gigging. He never stopped. And, and it's all kinds of branches with the P-Funk brand on them. So he never stopped. So now you have a whole generation of people, and I must say a lot of them are young white kids who think that funk music means George Clinton. They equate funk with George Clinton, which that's all right. I mean, because at least that keeps funk music, out there. But it's so much more than George. Funk came from the Bay Area, came from Ohio. It came, there's funk from all over the United States. So just to kind of box it into a P-Funk thing is so, I can't think of the word that I need to use right now, so I'm just going to use wrong. It's so wrong because funk is so much more than that. So it's important to me for those who, because there are still a lot of young kids out there who want to know what funk is, and they just think that is George. But since they want to know, then I need for them to know that it's more than George Clinton, it's more than P-Funk, it's Sly and the Family Stone, it's Ohio, Zap, it's the Gap Band. It's so much more. So this is what keeps me going, is because I it's about Funk 101. People have to know. So, and I did I've been hosting a online radio show on Blog Talk Radio called Everybody is a Star. And I've been doing that off and on for about 5 or 6 years now. And I've been doing basically what you're doing, and you're doing a wonderful job. I looked at some of your clips, Fred Wesley and all that. Straight godfather of funk right there. But so I interview those who are the pioneers, from everywhere. You know what I'm saying? Just funk comes from everywhere. So that's another thing that I'm doing to try to keep the funk alive too, because it's not big, you know, it's not very many left. It's not very many pioneers left. They're like, you know, dropping like flies.
Yeah,
So
last
I'm
5 years,
trying to
brutal.
make sure that I get, you know, can chronicle all of them or as many as I can get to before everybody is gone. You know what I'm saying? Because, you know, it's heading in that direction. So I just want to say that thank you we're on this mission together and I appreciate you. And that's one of the reasons why I did this interview with you, because you are a funkologist and I appreciate you for that.
I appreciate you right back. So, you know, anything that I can do personally to help the cause, anything I can get out to the listeners and viewers, or my website, funkandstuff.net, just say the word, I am there. Yeah. So, you know, we had a funk fest out here. I'm in the Charlotte, North Carolina area, and they had a funk fest here this past year, and there wasn't a funk act on the bill, you know?
See, that's what I'm talking about. That's another thing. And, you know, especially in the summertime, you know, they have all these festivals that they put together and these events that they put together, and they slap the word funk up there and you go to them and nobody that's involved with funk whatsoever is performing. Nobody. It's like, and that's another thing that gets on my nerves. I do not like that. Quit using that word, because funk is sacred. That's a sacred word right there. And if you drawing people in under the guise of funk, and they get there and it's jazz and smooth this and you know what I'm saying, everything but funk, then that's ridiculous. So there are still some out there who are still doing authentic funk. I'm one of them. I have a band called Straight Funk. So there are still some of us left out there. So these are the people that need to be out there showing people the authenticity of the real funk. So when you this one that you went to, like, name some of the bands or the guests or whoever.
Well, the headliner, I didn't go. I wouldn't go to that, but the headliner I think was Erykah Badu. So you know, so she's okay, she's fine, you know, but Neo Soul is not funk, and she was about the funkiest one on the whole bill. So.
And I'm an Erykah Badu fan, and she's a Graham Central Station fan. I went to go see her one time, and she opened up her set with the Jam.
Yeah, she's cool, but I mean, it's not a funk fest.
She's not a funk artist, though. Yeah, she's not. Right. Yeah.
The other thing that so as for airing grievances, the other thing that gets me is when funk bands that have names that we know and love, they come back and they're just putting out mellow stuff and they forgot the funk.
Yeah. And see, that's what I think they should do. Is I think that a lot of artists from back in the day, the ones that are left, as opposed to going in the studio trying to do new music, don't nobody want to hear no new music. Just play the hits. Just play the stuff that we know all the words to. You know what I'm saying? Just play your hits, your funk hits. That's what we want to hear. We do not want to hear this new music you call yourself doing. How are you going to do new music? You know what I'm saying? Just give us what we miss. You know what? I think that Bruno Mars, I get flack for this, but I do not care. I think Bruno Mars has tapped into the void that is missing because funk music is no longer, you know, prevalent, because he has tapped into that. Because I went to his concert a couple of weeks ago. He has tapped into that party, feel good music, and I must say, he does accidentally hit a couple of funk grooves in his songs here and there. You know, it makes you party, it makes you feel good, it makes you smile, it gives you a couple of times I made that funk face, you know, and didn't even know it. So he is at this time right now, he's the one that seems to, because he studied, I have to give it to him, listening to his songs and stuff. He studied original artists, and he studied people who have studied original artists, because he brought out stuff from way back and incorporated it in his music. So, you know, I have to say that I give it up to Bruno Mars for you know, doing his part to keep the funk alive.
Yeah, well, my hope is that, you know, he opens up the ears and minds to some of the fans to go back and check out some of the original stuff, you know.
That would be great. That would be great. But, you know, I'm on a mission, and I'm going to roll until the wheels fall off, Scott. What about you?
Oh, absolutely. You know, like I talked to guys like Greg Boyer and like that, and bring up about, you know, retiring. And he says, you know, musicians don't retire. They just go until they drop. So Funketeers don't stop either.
Absolutely. That's right. That's what I plan on doing.
Well, God bless you.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for being on the show. Is there anything else that you wanted to add? Any other contact info or plugs you want to get in there?
Well, I'm on Facebook. You can find me on Facebook. I have a Twitter and all that, but I haven't quite tapped into my Twitter game and my Instagram game and all that. But I'm going to, you know, do a better job, because, like I said, Stozo and we have this project we're trying to launch. So for right now, people can find me on Facebook and PatryceChoc'LetBanks.com.
Beautiful. All right. Well, then with that, I'm going to wrap up this episode. Hang tight.
Can I just say one last thing?
Absolutely.
I just want to say, may the funk be with all y'all, okay? All right. And keep it and treasure it. Okay.
Absolutely.
I think that's...
All right. With that, it's time to wrap up this fantastic edition of Truth and Rhythm. A huge thanks to my special guest, Patryce Choc'Let Banks.
Thank you, Scott.
Yeah, her amazing voice was central to Graham Central Station's catalog of funk and soul classics. Thank you again so much for sharing your time and also your experiences. I really appreciate it.
It was my pleasure. Let's do it again.
Absolutely. Sincere thank you out to the viewers for continuing the interest and support and keeping the funk alive. Be sure to look for upcoming episodes at funkandstuff.net and on YouTube, iTunes, and all the other great leading providers. We want to hear from you, so email me at scottg@funkandstuff.net. Let me know what you like, what you don't like, who you might want to see on the show. Until next time, on behalf of Miss Patryce Choc'Let Banks, this is Scott Dr. J. Goldfine saying keep on vibrating to the rhythm of the one.
We've been waiting for so long, waiting to play for you some of our song. We've been waiting for so long. We want to play for you some of our songs, 'cause we've been waiting.
All right.